to gain some efficiency as you get to a certain level, gain a ton of efficiency when you get to a certain capacity in marketing. I always wanted to learn more, try more, do more. As you're growing along each level, you have a certain step you need to take. You need to invest a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. That became more than what I was doing at work. And, it just started to become one piece after another.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us for another episode of the Lift Your Shop podcast. I'm Kelsey Altram with Lift Auto Repair Marketing, and today we have an amazing guest. We have Glenn Todd from Glenn's European Auto Repair out of the Pennsylvania, northern Philadelphia area. So, Glenn, thank you so much for being with us today.
Hey, thanks. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. So Glenn, I mean, to get things going, I know obviously you're well known in the industry, at least under my belief. But why don't you get us explain a little bit how you got involved with the industry and we'll guide into today.
I got into cars, right out of high school. Started working on cars. Always was entertained with cars my whole entire life. It's what I've been into. But I went to Universal Technical Institute coming out of high school. I thought that was like the end all be all. I was going to come out of there and just be the best. But I learned a lot of hard lessons over the way and, just, kind of learned and grew in the field as I went. But I had a lot of really great mentors. I worked for independents, worked for some dealers. I worked for some really great people, worked beside some great people. And then, eventually branched off in 2017 and started a shop and then, just it's been a journey ever since.
That's absolutely amazing. And so, I mean, what made you take the leap from, again, I'd love to hear the story of why people decided from technician to ownership, but what kind of sparked that fire?
I always did, side work. It was always one of those things. I was always looking for more. I always wanted to learn more, try more, do more. I was always chasing some money. I was a little bit of an entrepreneur to begin with. So there was a little bit of that played a factor into it. And then there was just other things like, I wanted to try different projects, things that I wasn't getting into the shop, things I wasn't doing at work that I wanted to try and learn on. Eventually at some point that became more than what I was doing at work. And, it just started to become one piece after another.
That's awesome. And so why don't we give us a lay of the land, like how big is the current shop? And maybe if you want to mention a little bit of numbers, kind of where things are currently at.
Yeah, the shop I'm in is actually a fairly small building. It's in a small lot in a fairly small town. But it is a suburban town. We've got some pretty high traffic and we've got a decent amount of people living around us. It's densely populated. So basically right now it's a 6-bay shop, crammed into a super small space.
Yep.
But we've got 5 2-post lifts and a scissor lift with an alignment set up on it. We're currently, running in between that like 250 to 265 thousand a month range. Right around 300 cars.
That's super awesome. And and you've done this in a pretty short amount of time, I guess, when you consider in the grand scheme of things for most owners, correct?
Yeah, well, we got this shop open in June. It was actually right at the beginning of June in 2022. And we did $1 million in that year. And then we did 2.2 last year. And we're striving really hard for 3 this year.
That's super awesome.
So it's definitely a fast-paced growth, and we've definitely made leaps and bounds, but we still have a ways to go.
No, absolutely, definitely. But as you've continued to scale and grow, and again, first off, congratulations, you are crushing it. There's super impressive numbers for, again, June 2022. We're talking about a little over a 2-year time frame here, where you're balling out in my opinion in terms of doing well. But what are maybe some of those big things that you've seen has been crucial to allowing kind of this success to happen?
I think it's really following just a consistent path of grow and then scale and then grow and then scale and then figure out each way along the way exactly which piece we needed. I've had some really great coaching. I've had some really great mentorship. I've had some people that gave me the tips along the way that I really needed. Um, but at the end of the day, it comes down to knowing exactly how many cars, how many technicians, what you need out of your market, and which direction to go. Add more technicians or really chase more cars, and knowing which way to go.
Yeah, and so in terms of, I guess, finding these right technicians, I know you're a big believer in making sure that you have the right people in the business to ensure that you can hit the goals that you want to hit. So how do you go about finding them?
It takes a lot of time. You definitely have to invest. It's a lot of conversations. It's a lot of putting your foot out there. Being willing to have a conversation with a technician you see online. Being willing to have a conversation with that technician you see at the dealer when you're picking up a part, and just really getting to know people a little bit more before you just bring anybody into the building. I found it's been very um, crucial to spend a lot of time really knowing who that person is and making sure that they know exactly the vision that you want to follow, and making sure that that person aligns well with which your direction is going to go.
Yeah, and so how, I guess, obviously you're saying a lot of time. Like how much time are we talking about in terms of like your process before bringing them in?
I generally have 1 to 2 conversations. Then we have a phone call. After that, they have a shop tour. At that point, we schedule an interview. They do a first interview. I kind of give them an outline of what the job would look like, a pay scale, benefits, all the reasons why they would want to work there. We really focus in on their values, our values, and then after that, we would have a whole another separate meeting where we're going to have a presented offer and things that go forward from there. So, I do have a number of conversations that happen before we even get to that phone call. So for some of these people, it may be a short period of time. Some people, it's hours of time invested just to get there.
Yeah, and are there specific questions you typically ask and like certain maybe answers that you're like, yep, that's a winner, or is it just kind of different across the board?
It's a lot of the questions really pertain to more about like their values, how they think a shop should run. I ask them questions like, what keeps you in this industry? What keeps you motivated every single day? What's the main reason that you come to work for? So I ask people try questions to try to really get down to what their values are, the things that drive them, and then really see if those things align with our values, and really work at finding the best people that I can for those fit.
Yeah, and I guess what would you say like your shop values are?
Number one is I really try to find people that have family, that come to work for family.
Hmm.
People that come to work just for money are typically producers, and they're driven and they're motivated, but they're motivated for a money purpose only. It typically doesn't really work out long term.
Mhm.
They like to jump for the next best thing. And people that are here that because they really want to support their family, and have values that are aligned with our company's values are the people that work out the best. So family oriented people is definitely the number one thing I look for. Somebody that has kids, a wife, and really wants to succeed in our business.
I love that. Because again, I think it's a great value. I mean, it's definitely my why in terms of running our business and doing that. So I can see that definitely being a huge factor, kind of going after a greater purpose when you do this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I mean, so now that you have the right people and you're like, yep, they're I think these are going to just definitely be hour turners and things like that. How then do you lay out that proper process to ensure that they do that said thing day in and day out?
You definitely have to have like in the beginning, you have to develop a team culture.
Mm,
You've got to have that from within you. But as you grow and you scale, you've got to, make sure that people have the right roles, the responsibilities. They all have to have their own job. They also have to have their own value in their piece of the puzzle. And then you have to really align people with the position that suits them. It's really hard to lead people in a position that they just don't do great naturally at.
Mhm.
And I like to see people just naturally win. If they naturally win, it's way easier to lead them. So, really making sure that I have outline processes and responsibilities and roles for everything is really probably the number one thing that keeps everybody moving in the right direction.
Yeah, no, for sure. Sweet. I mean, those are, I mean, great things to definitely embed and embody in culture. How would you, I guess, for your team culture, what would you, how do you describe it?
I would say, we have if you visited our store, you would see a lot of smiling. You would see a lot of people as they pass by each other, making small jokes, having fun with each other, asking people what they have going on later, what they're doing. They generally all care about each other's families
Mm,
and every single aspect of it, and really want to see each other win. So when you see somebody in a position where they're not winning, we generally say, like, rush to go help that person win. And that's really where I like to see a lot of our teamwork come into play. We'll see, somebody struggling with something, everybody will jump in and help get that person through it and then move on. And our culture is kind of driven by a lot of the time that we've spent outside of the shop.
okay.
I've done a lot of team building events. I've taken them on retreats. I've taken them for Christmas parties and all sorts of different events where we go out to dinners and just really work on who we are and hanging out and getting to know each other outside of the job place, because we spend, I mean, more than 8 hours a day, every day at work, and you only get to know that person who they are at work. And so I've spent a lot of time with these guys and gals just outside of the shop, making sure that, I got an opportunity to see who they are, who their spouse is. And I've invited their spouses to all of these events as well. And I think that's another part of it, getting to see who they are, not just at home, but then who they are with their spouse and how they act around others. And everybody really gets a clear picture of who they work with. And I think that really helps.
Absolutely. I think that like any team building activity, but it sounds like you invest a lot of time in your team. And for a lot of other owners, they're probably like, Glenn, how do you have so much time to invest in them? Like, so like, what is your way to ensure that, yeah, that's what's happening?
Well, if I'm being transparent, I mean, myself, my wife, my entire family's made some sacrifices to make that happen.
Mhm.
I've taken my kids with on those retreats. My wife and I are just, preparing for it for days and days and days in advance to make something like that happen. And that takes team building at home. So it's not just one little piece of it. There's a lot that goes into making something like that happen. And it's a lot of effort. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that even my team doesn't see, um, that, I'm sure they appreciate. But at the end of the day, it's a lot of time.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Not everybody has that time, and I understand that, but you've got to try to make that time so that your team knows what you're there for and what your principles are, what your values are, and that you're really there for them. They've got to feel like they're part of something, otherwise they're not going to get anywhere with it.
I think that you hit that nail on the head for sure. Because again, if you don't make the effort, then like why would your team kind of make the effort back if they're not seeing it? So that's where I mean, and that's always the fine balance. Is as an owner, obviously, you want to be able to start being that absentee, so to say, at times, like, oh, how do I get some of that time back, and I can reinvest back in my family or whatever it may be, which is awesome. But obviously, I don't think there's ever such a thing where you can just be gone, like you just kind of vanish. At least in my opinion. And so, I mean,
I, I feel like for years I spent time chasing a work life balance,
mm,
and the reality of it is there's no work life balance. It's just a work life blend. It's how well you can blend the
mm.
two together. And I found that, rather than fighting one versus the other and trying to shift my focus so much, it's like, how do I blend them together? And that makes it work a little easier.
That's a very like, and I guess do you willing to be like, yep, this, and this, or how are you balancing it all?
sometimes you just gotta, spend that time on the Zoom meeting while you're on your way to go do the thing with your family, and
Yeah.
tell them why you've got to do that and why that's important. But you know what? I mean, you can make it work. You can blend it. You just got to be all in for everything you're all in for.
Yeah. So I think one thing that you're really good at is definitely not making that excuse of like, oh, this is why I can't do something. You're very big on action taking, which I've come to very much respect in what you do. And is that a mindset that you've kind of just always had, or is it something that you've learned over time, or what has come from that?
No, no, I've been an excuse maker forever. I've just gotten better at just having a little bit of self discipline and saying,
Oh,
no, I can't do that. And, now is the time to take action. Or if I've got a coach that's really giving me some direction, I generally don't give them a lot of opposition. I just, if that person's giving me some really sound advice from an outside perspective and really trying to influence me in a positive direction and has nothing but positive wishes for me,
mhm.
then why would I not listen to that person, especially if I'm paying them?
Yeah.
And so, I've found that it's just easier to listen to somebody, take the advice, drop the ego, and really just try to chase the goal.
Yeah.
And that's really been the switch for me. Was, I mean, I've made excuses over plenty of things in my life, but the one thing is dropping the ego and saying maybe I don't have it all figured out, or maybe somebody has a better way.
Mhm.
I didn't really invent the wheel on any of this. I just took everybody else's process and just made it happen.
Yeah, no, and that's awesome. And not a lot of people are able to say that they're able to take that step. So I think that's something that you've done very well, more than most, especially in such a short amount of time. So I think, yes, there's other shops that have done numbers like you've done, but in such a short amount of time, I mean, there has to be execution done. And so that's what I want to make sure that point, like it, right now, it's coming off like Glenn's very laid back, but I know there's definitely some precision and things and processes that go into that. But
Absolutely. Yeah, there's been long nights, long hours, plenty of tears, plenty of blood, plenty of sweat, and tons of determination and just tons of worry and how am I going to make this work, and um lots of close calls and how am I going to calculate this and mitigate this, and but at the end of the day, you're right, lots of execution, but it's mostly just having a lot of faith, really having a good belief system, making sure that you've, really solidified all those things, and that you try to limit as much of the limiting belief as you can and just have faith.
yeah, I absolutely love that. I think faith is crucial, regardless of what faith you even have. I think it's important to have it. Because with
Faith is whatever belief you really have.
yeah,
So
yeah, no, 100%. On another note, I know another big thing you're a believer in is like investing, both like time, but also dollars and investing back into the business. And so, and it definitely in more so than most. And so, like, what has led you to, I guess, that belief system of like how much it is worth to like one even have that mindset shift to see it as an investment rather than like oh, this is costing me more money.
it's taken a long time, really, for me to even get close to that mindset. I can't tell you for how long I always just looked for the cheapest version of a tool,
Mm-hmm.
and just figured, how do I get by without that one piece of software? But over time, I've figured out, how do I make a calculated investment? How do I really figure out what benefits my team? Um, how do I get a good measure on, you know, all of the things that I need to invest in? And, again, really finding outside influences, a mentor, a coach, somebody who's going to say, hey, that one side of your building needs to be painted, or that you need a better sign, or, you really do need that one piece of equipment that would really advance you and get you to the next level. And sometimes, it sounds ridiculous. I mean, I spent an absolute butt ton of money on a bathroom, but I moved a bathroom over, and that was allowing me to, make a shift that allowed me to grow my capacity by almost 20% for moving a bathroom. So, when you really make a calculated decision on your shop's capacity and things like that, rather than just your wants and desires, then you can make good quality investments.
Yeah, that is awesome. It's like, I guess in the situation of said bathroom, like how did you even figure out that, like, yes, where it is definitely been a hindrance on the capacity that you could do.
It'll sound crazy, but one day I was looking at the shop and I was like, that bathroom is way too in the way. And if we just took that room and turned it sideways, I think we could fit a lift in there. And it actually was such a close call to the point where people in my coaching group were making jokes that the lift was never even going to fit anyways because I never measured it, which I never did. I never measured any of it. I cut first and then measured after. And it was crazy. In the middle of the wall, we found a sewer line. We had to cut the floor, move the sewer, and do all sorts of crazy nonsense to make this work. But it ended up putting us in a position where we had another two post lifts worth of space. And it really, really gave us some headspace.
Man, that's super cool. Granted, for those listening, please measure and do it beforehand. I love, see, that's one thing I love about Glenn, though. He takes action, and there's no that fear that most people have of taking action. You're just like, no, let's just take the action. Let's figure it out. Like, again, I love that mentality, because so much can get accomplished when you do things like this. But at the same time,
You
please
know,
measure.
even if you do measure, something won't go to plan, something won't go right, and you'll have to improvise, you'll have to adapt. You'll eventually figure out how to overcome it, and you'll get through the other side. So, if my advice would be, just cut first, just go ahead, go dive in and figure it out. And then on the other side, you will figure out how to get through all of the little pain points. But most people never even make the first step. They never make the cut, and they
Yeah,
spend their whole time measuring.
yeah,
So
yeah.
my advice would be cut.
Yeah, that analysis by paralysis for sure. I think I've seen a lot in any owner, let alone just auto repair shop owners. So, but yeah, I think that's very sound advice to give. On a different note, I know there's some investment in, like, say, marketing dollars. Like, I know you definitely are a bigger proponent of investing more than less. And I guess, why is that the case, and why has it worked that way?
Um, I got a really solid metric years ago, and that was, you take your rent and your marketing, and it should be proportionate to a certain level of revenue.
Mhm.
And eventually, like, that scale runs out, right? But it's a really good guideline. And what I did was, at every step of growth, I just simply took that scale, and I didn't really ever scale it down. I just said, if I want to get X results, I should spend X and Y percent to get the results. And so basically, I just kept increasing my budget to get to the result each step of the way. Now, what we've ended up finding is, you gain some efficiency as you get to a certain level, and you guys have even found, and some of my other marketing companies have found that you know you can gain a ton of efficiency when you get to a certain capacity in marketing. But as you're growing along each level, you have a certain step you need to take. You need to invest a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more just to get that customer base that you really need. And if you're new to the game and you've got a new shop, you've really got to build those customers up. So I see the value in each one of those customers becoming a long-time client, not just a first-time visitor or getting upset when they only come in for an oil change. I know that that person's going to come back because we treated them great.
Yeah, I think that's definitely an amazing belief system that you've had, is where, yeah, like, no customer is coming in just once because of how we treat them. And so, how is it that how are you treating them that is making it, like, because again, I mean, I know your numbers a little bit better than most, obviously, because, like, again, for full transparency, yes, we do Glenn's marketing, but that's not what we're here to talk about. But in terms of, like, the returning customer percentage is so high for your shop, and I think that speaks such volumes to what you're doing there. So what is that initial, like when like the first time someone visits, what is that process in which you're taking a customer through that journey?
I really honestly think it is 100% attributed to the people that we have on the front counter and just how they talk to people. They have empathy. They, answer questions, and they have like a very strong yes mentality. They don't guarantee anybody we can fix anything
Mhm.
today, but they guarantee you we can get you in the door and we can at least look at your car and find out what's going on, communicate with you, and then we'll communicate with you for every step of the way. And in the comparison to a lot of their shops or their experiences that they've been to before, they don't really get in right away or they don't get the communication. And so when we bite both of those pain points off right off the bat, they typically just have such a positive experience that they are very, very thrilled and they want to come back. So, you've got to take the customer's pain away. You do have to fix the car every time, the first time. And you've got to make sure that that person knows that it's like a person that's answering their questions or hearing their side of the story. They need to know that there's actually somebody that cares.
Yeah, no, and I'm just curious. Do you like keep maybe a bit open so that way you're able to take these first ones in like really quickly, or it just how
No,
does
we have a team culture that just really knows and understands that in order to get somebody in, somebody's going to have to be flexible. Somebody might have to take a look at that car in the parking lot. Somebody might have to move something off a rack or have a good explanation to a customer as to why it's going to be 15 or 20 minutes to get to that. But we are focused on getting you an answer. There's always where there's a will, there's a way. You will make
Mm,
it happen. And we don't really leave a bay open for anything. We try to maximize our efficiency as best we can. But when a customer comes in, there's plenty of ways to work around just getting that person in and looking at their car without
yep.
telling them no or telling them tomorrow. You can be flexible with people and people will be flexible with you. You just have to be transparent and tell them the truth. Hey, I have 5 cars in the shop right now. I'd love to get to your car. We will get you an answer as soon as we can. It'll be 25 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever it's going to be, and tell them the truth. And then offer the amenities, ride share options, a drive home, a snack or a drink while they wait, anything that I can to make them feel like, we are there to support what their needs are.
Yeah,
So, if you're clear with people, they generally are really happy about that. They just don't want to be, kind of ignored.
yes, I think that's in this day and age. I mean, with obviously so many automation systems and things, they just get the runaround. Like they can't even get to the person that they want to talk to. It, I think that just those little things make such a difference. And I mean, which is crazy, like the simplest of things can make you unique and set you apart these days, when most people are just like not doing it.
Most shops only need the basics. That's all they need.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree, and I think you've definitely honed that into a T and taking it in, and just I guess in terms of the importance of coaching, I know you mentioned it a few times now, but like, what is your take on coaching? I guess why it's been so crucial and important for you.
I think coaching is a necessity for just about anything you really want to master.
Mm,
So if you want to, be the best cage fighter, you've got to get the right cage fighter coach. If you want to be the best golfer, you've got to get a golfing coach. You've got to master your swing. If you wanted to be the best, sharpshooter, you'd have to learn how to do that from somebody who's, already gone through the trials and tribulations. Because by the time you figure all the stuff out that that person's figured out, you won't have the time left to really hone all the skills. So I personally think that coaching is a necessity, from a technician perspective, from a service advisor perspective, from a business owner perspective, to, I mean, finding the best talent and providing the best opportunity for your kids at sports. You've got to find a coach for them to get the best benefit for the time. Um, you could learn all the things a coach is going to teach you, but it'll take you a lifetime to get there. And then you'll look back wishing you had a coach in the first place. So I truly think that coaching is amazing, but you've got to find the right person. It's got to be the right coaching platform. It's got to be the right person. It's got to be the right timing. It's got to be the right, sequence of events. All the right things have to kind of fall into the right place for you to have that experience and really take home the values. And then at the end of the day, you have to be willing to accept. So if you're going to spend your time and money and go and, hear a coach every 3 months and not take the action, you probably shouldn't do coaching.
Yeah.
But if you're going to, go and really truly value somebody's opinion, then you're going to, do the things the coach wanted you to do. And you truly understand that that person has the right interest for you, and you've interviewed and you make sure that that person has the right interest. I don't see why anybody wouldn't want to do it.
Yep. No, I 100% agree. I think everyone needs a coach, regardless of what you're doing. But I think that key phrase that you mentioned, if you want to master it, I never really thought about like that end of things. And I think that's so important to understand.
Anybody could start a shop and get a shop going, right? And most people can sustain one, but mastering, owning, and operating, and truly understanding all the facets of what it takes to run your repair shop isn't going to happen in a lifetime unless you've got somebody that can mentor you through it.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Well, Glenn, thank you so much for your time today. I think that this has been incredible insights. You've done such an incredible amount of, I guess, accomplishments in such a short amount of time in terms of this most recent shop. Obviously, I know your time in auto repair has definitely been much longer than that, but this most recent shop has done very, very well. So congratulations there. But as like a one parting thing for people, I usually like to ask the guests, like if there's like a book that you would recommend for any business owner to read, do you have any particular recommendation?
I've got so many, but Profit First from Michael McCallowitz, Can't Hurt Me from David Goggins, Rocket Fuel. There's so many good books out there. But yeah, those are a couple, just to name a few.
No, those are all three great ones. And so again, those are crucial to business ownership in and of itself. I think I have 2 of the 3 on my shelf over here. But awesome. Yeah, I think those are great ones to do. And for those still that maybe want to reach back out to you and they're like, you know what, Glenn, there's something in particular that like I think you could definitely help me with. What would be the best way to reach out to you and maybe get a hold of you?
Yeah, find me on Facebook, shoot me a message, find me at a conference or something like that. I'm around. I'm easy to find.
Yeah, but if you need help finding Glenn, I'll make sure to point you in the right direction as well.
Absolutely.
But for all those still listening, thank you again so much for listening to our podcast today. If you haven't liked or subscribed yet, please go ahead and do so. But I'm Kelsey Oshman with Todd Marketing. We'll catch you guys again next time. See ya. Bye.